Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content. With that, Joel Klatt joining us live, the voice of college football at Fox. He's got Wisconsin at Michigan Saturday. So I'm watching. We went into a season, there were quarterbacks we all liked. Drew Aller, Cape Kludnick. We all were like, okay, these guys are really good. And I had said, the interesting guy, about 2 weeks ago, I said, Dante Moore throws the ball like a pro quarterback, and he's got movement. His ability to go to Penn State with that crowd and to be stoic and unbothered and have that temperament, like it was a little jaw-dropping. And to juxtapose him next to Aller, who doesn't have the feel, to me, doesn't have the feel for the game that Dante Moore does. It just feels like Dante Moore, some guys it's just kind of innate. They just got a feel for it. I don't know. I watched him and I said yesterday, if I had a number one pick, I think I'd pick Dante Moore. I feel I think he's that good. Is he not?
I think at this point, he would be one of my favorites for the Heisman Trophy, and I do think he's that good. And you just described it as stoic and unbothered. I would say calm. He was calm. He was calm in the pocket. His face was calm, and it didn't matter the situation. It didn't matter if it was the first snap of the game, they're dealing with the crowd noise, all those fourth downs that they would go for where he was carrying the football. It didn't matter if he got hit, if he was having to leave the pocket to make throws from the pocket, if he was having to drive the football, throw with touch across his body. He did all of it. And by the way, probably the best play that he made was that one that you're showing right now where, it's in double overtime, and maybe the best defender in college football or edge rusher in college football, Dante Sutton, is bearing down on him unblocked, and he calmly just protects the football, scoops it under him, steps up in the pocket, leaks out towards his right, and delivers a dart. I mean, his ability to make plays is fantastic, but it's more than that, and you're touching on it. It's this calm nature that he has, and I think that that's born through preparation and ability. He's got great confidence in himself, everything around him. And when I talk with Will Stein, their offensive coordinator, he tells me that Dante prepares as well or better than anybody he's ever been around, and he was around Teddy Bridgewater, who was historically one of the great preparers in college football at Louisville. So I think that the sky's the limit for Dante Moore, not only in college football here at Oregon and this season, but ultimately, in the National Football League.
So I have defended James Franklin. Yes, he's losing. But I defended for years Ryan Day. I'm like, he's losing to Harbaugh in Michigan and Georgia. Give me a break. James Franklin's losing to the right people. That said, that felt like a game you have to win. Yeah. Home, or Dante Moore never played in front of that crowd. You have mostly even players. You're at home. That one felt like, okay, I've defended James. You got to win that game, don't you?
I would agree with you. And I've done the same thing. So I bring up this stat last week. They were in the regular season 0 for their last 14 in top 10 matchups going back to 2016. We talked about that. But this one was the first time that they were both the higher ranked and the favored team. So like you're saying, in a lot of those matchups, they're 18th in the country going to number 2 Ohio State. And it's like, listen, you're probably not going to win that game. Right. So I think the narrative is a little bit overblown, although it is factual. And this is one that you sit in the bucket where you got to win this game. Oregon's in largely a rebuild. Here's what's scary for the Big Ten. Is that's a rebuilt team, transfer portal and young players everywhere. True freshman back, Dare Hill. 2 freshmen at corner, 1 red shirt, 1 true. Like I said, rebuilt offensive line through the transfer portal. A quarterback that's making his first starts as a Duck, and in particular in an environment like that. Meanwhile, Penn State has all of these experienced players back, including Drew Aller, their quarterback. And they can't win the football game. And that's the alarming part for Penn State. And so this is what I would say for Penn State is that you've got to have a clear-eyed evaluation. You've got to have some competitive integrity and evaluate yourself honestly. What is going wrong in these moments? And I think that you've got to come down to 2 conclusions, Colin. Number 1 is this offensive system that they're trying to run is not a fit for Drew Aller. And unless you're going to change the quarterback, you better change the offensive system, or at least how you go about it philosophically. He is not an RPO quarterback that wants to be a point guard, fast hands, fast feet type of guy, and yet that's the offense that they try to run. I think they need to take a page out of what Ohio State did a year ago, which they went and lost to Oregon in the regular season in Eugene, and they changed their defense because of it. Why did they do that? Because of the players and the players' skill set. They wanted to get Caleb Downs more involved in the action, and so they changed the structure of their defense to better suit the players that they had. Well, they need to change the structure of the offense at Penn State to better suit their quarterback. And then the last thing would be game management. You know, I thought at the end of the half, they did a poor job of leaving time for Oregon, and Oregon got an extra possession out of that. And in those types of games, you've got to do everything perfect. So James needs to be better at game management. And then I think that they need to take a hard look in the mirror at exactly what they're trying to do offensively and what Drew Aller can do. And they need to marry the two together.
Okay, I don't think anybody's going to beat Ohio State because I think they're going to struggle to score. Last year, I felt like Ohio State, between the receiving core, the quarterback play, stud running backs who were both doing well in the NFL, I thought they just had too much offensive firepower, as Oregon found out the first game and the second. The second one, Oregon couldn't keep up offensively. I look at this defense for Ohio State. Now I look at the defense, and I'm like, to go to Seattle, Jed Fish, Washington's got some offensive pieces. They don't have Ohio State. They made all the big plays. I think it's a different version. And by the way, last year they had Chip Kelly. So over the course of a season, that offense got smarter. It got more efficient. It grew and grew and grew. And at the end, it was a train. This is Matt Patricia. And okay, now all of a sudden you start looking at it and you're like, oh, Arch Manning couldn't figure it out. Oh, Jed Fish in Washington couldn't figure it out. Okay, this is powerhouse personnel, great offensive coach. I think Ohio State looks like a team that's going to play for the national championship. You remember watching Usain Bolt run the 100? Yeah. And he was the fastest, but it looked like he was running the easiest. Remember that? And like everybody else is like, yeah, like this. And he's just kind of gliding through the line, looking back at people. That's what Ohio State feels like to me right now. Because they haven't even gotten into fourth gear offensively. Like they haven't needed it. They've played very conservative football and relied on their defense. And here's what's interesting. And Colin, I don't disagree with your premise, although I would just say, I think that's selling last year's team just a little bit short. That was the number one defense in college football a year ago. The number one defense. And they're better this year. That's the scary they're
part.
Absolutely. It's different this year.
It's different because of the speed and athleticism that they have, in particular at the second level. Two guys that I want to point out, Sonny Styles, which is an experienced linebacker that moved from safety a couple of years ago. He's a terrific player. And then this new starter that they have, Arvell Reese. You should hear scouts talk about Arvell Reese. This guy is a game wrecker at the linebacker position, and they're so long and fast that opposing offenses can't do anything against them. That's why Damon Williams, who's a really terrific running quarterback, dual threat guy, he couldn't get loose because these guys were spying him. Oh, hey, by the way, the best defender in the sport is behind those guys, and Caleb Downs. So it provides an opportunity for a young defensive line to continue to develop, which they are. Caden Curry had 3 sacks last week. And that's what makes them such a dangerous team and why the offense has just been gliding along. Second gear, third gear. We haven't even seen the best from Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith. And they're just developing themselves into a team. And that's what worries me for the rest of college football is the team that looks like they're running the easiest is actually running the fastest right now.
So I went to the USC game, and my takeaway, people were banging on Lincoln Riley because they scored too fast in the end. And my takeaway is when you're on the road with 20-year-old kids and you can score a touchdown, their offensive line was missing their left tackle.
I would disagree with that. You think they should have played around and gotten cute? Well, no, they didn't need to play around and get cute. They just needed to keep the integrity of the drive that they were on. So they got the ball down 6. So they're down 14. They go down and score and go for 2. Okay, great. All right. The analytics tell them to go for 2. They get it. So now they're down 6, and an extra point's going to win the game if they can put the ball in the end zone. And I will give you this. You have to score. And I understand that. And you'll take a score whenever you get it. However, the drive, as it was constructed, the philosophy of that drive, they got the ball with around 4 minutes to go. And they wanted to make it the last drive. That's how they executed. That was the philosophy of the drive, the integrity of the drive, up until the point where they're just inside of the red zone, and now there's just inside of 2 minutes. They have bled all of that time. They're running the football well. They're throwing some screen routes. They're moving the ball. Illinois still has all 3 timeouts left. There's about 1:55, and all of a sudden on first down, you take a shot to the end zone like out of the blue? No. You keep the integrity of the drive. That doesn't mean that you're messing around. It doesn't mean that you're trying to drain the clock. It just means that you're in the philosophy of how you're moving the football. If they hand the football off once, great. Twice, even better. You're draining the timeouts. You're draining the clock. And then you can still get a first down in that moment, which would have been just inside of the 6-yard line, and you can still score. So my criticism was just that at first down was not the time to take a shot. If you want to take a shot on third down right there, I would be fine with that. But again, stay in the integrity of the philosophy that you had from the beginning of the drive.
Yeah, J-Mac texted me after the touchdown. He goes, ooh, good win for USC. And I said, Illinois has a great kicker. They scored way too fast, and their defense looks fatigued. They can't get a pass rush. Now,
I turned to Gus right after the touchdown, and I said, Illinois wins. Right after the USC touchdown. As soon as that they took a shot and he caught that ball, Brett Bielema must have been thrilled on the sideline. I know that sounds wild. It does. I get it. I understand. But Illinois had been moving the ball all day long. The only thing that stopped them were fumbles at the goal line, and they got a great kicker. They were winning the game.
So when everybody banged on Harbaugh for years, Joel Klatt and myself were like, you think he can't coach? Settle down. Take a deep breath. A lot of the flamethrowers at other networks went crazy. You and I didn't. When people wanted Ryan Day fired, you and I were like, yeah, he's losing to Harbaugh, who's been to Super Bowls. He's losing to Georgia. Ryan Day's a really good coach. And he won a natty. So Kalen DeBoer, I said this when Bama hired him, Greg Byrne. I said he could have hired Dan Lanning, Southern ties. He could have gone after Debo, Southern ties. There were a lot of people he could have hired. And Greg Byrne goes, no, I'm going to go west. And I'm going to get that Washington guy. And I thought, despite being a great coach, the SEC has gobbled up a lot of good coaches. And I thought it was kind of a gutty hire. Dabo could have been there if you threw a ton at him. And other guys, Dan Lanning has that Southern background. When he was beating Georgia and out-coaching Kirby Smart, my take was, why are you doubting Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh, and Kalen DeBoer? Do you not think they can I thought his first half game plan was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible. I loved their answer. That team looks far different than the team that lost to Florida State.
Yeah,
I mean, not even the same team at all. The effort level was different. The offensive line play in terms of protecting the quarterback was much different. And that's actually the main point, is that if they can protect Ty Simpson, he's an extraordinary quarterback, and they've got great weapons on the outside with Williams and Bernard. So they can throw the football. And DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, remember, Ryan Grubb was not there last year. He was the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks after they were together in Washington. Now Grubb is back with him. And when they have the right fit at quarterback, it's really beautiful. They had that with Michael Penix at Washington. Now they have it with Ty Simpson at Alabama. So they can throw the football as well as anybody in the country. My worry for Alabama, though, is that there's still some glaring holes right now with the way that they play. They gave up 200-yard rushing to Georgia. They gave up 200 yards rushing to Florida State, and they don't run the football very well. So Ty Simpson basically has to have a cape on his back. The game plan has to be perfect for them to go win. That makes me nervous in what I think is a balanced league. I don't think the SEC is a great league this year with a great team, but it's balanced. And it's going to be a lot of one-score games. They might be in a one-score game this week at home against Vanderbilt with Diego Pavia. And if you all of a sudden have an off day throwing the football, or your offensive line is not protecting well that day, you're finished. You're done. And so that's what makes me worried about Alabama, is it's not the Alabama that we're used to. Everything you said about Kalen DeBoer, I agree with. He's a great coach. There's no doubt. But this seems to be, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but there is one clearly excellent part of this team and several average areas of this team. And that would worry me going forward. Yeah, listen, let's be honest about college football now. It is not just Georgia, Bama, Clemson. That's right.
It's very, very even, and what happened about 4 years ago in the transfer portal is it used to be Bama, Georgia. If left tackle goes down, well, we got a 5-star guy behind him.
Yeah, they stockpile talent. Yeah.
That guy now goes to Louisville or Texas Tech, or he gets purchased. So Alabama and Georgia don't have the depth, the dominance depth. They have really good players, but if a running back gets hurt, the second running back is not an NFL player sometimes. When I'm watching Georgia, I'm like, they're just not as fast. Yeah. They're not as dominating. And by the way, Bama's got good players, but they have holes. Under Saban, you're like, their third corner was unbelievable. So the transfer portal and NIL has made this sport very even.
Yeah, and by the way, how about all the people that lament those two things? And I get it, it's frustrating, but just because something's frustrating doesn't mean that it's bad, okay? And what we've seen in college football is a transformation of the sport where now 10, 12, 13 teams, I think, could possibly win the national championship. Now, is it totally likely? I don't know if it's totally likely, but prior to this, Colin, and you and I used to talk about this, there were like three. Maybe that would win the national championship or could win the national championship.
Or you'd watch the SEC and it looks so much faster than the Big Ten.
Yeah,
and
now that's done. Now that's done. In fact, I'd say the three best teams that I've seen so far are probably Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. Maybe Miami mixed in. They're like, you can't even get to an SEC team in the kind of the top four. I know people are propping up, and I maybe do this with A&M and maybe Texas or Georgia or Alabama, but the elite teams in college football no longer rest in the SEC. The top of the sport now rests in the Big Ten, and it's just true.
Now, thank God you and I aren't just out here for clicks. We're giving nuance to this
That's
sport.
Right. It was great to see you Saturday, by the way.
It was. You know what? Somebody said, do you want to go see Gus and Joel Klatt? And I said, you know what? Professionals don't want to get in the way of the production. And I did the pregame show, and I said with the Barstool guys, and I said, that's fun. I'll go downstairs and, do that stuff. But a couple pros up there, I didn't want to get in the way.
That's right. That's right. Sacred ground up there in the booth.
Yeah.
We don't just let anybody in.
That's right. That's right. I didn't have the passes. I wasn't equipped with the accurate passes that get you in. Joel Klatt, voice of college football. Mark Sanchez next hour has got all sorts of great stuff. The great thing, J-Mac, and you used to live out there, and so did I, when the Yankees and the Red Sox meet, especially in the postseason, it is second guess the manager time. And I'll say this about the Yankees as an organization. They've been very patient. Cashman's been there forever. Aaron Boone in year 8. And everybody wants changes, but the Yankees, outside of 1 year, a couple years ago, have been really perennially good. We're waiting for great. This team's not going to be great because there are certain elements that they're just not very good at, like their bullpen, and that was on display last night. So here we go. Let's talk Yankees, Red Sox, game 1. It's second guess the manager time, and Aaron Boone is a piñata to the Pinstriper fans. So he didn't start Jazz Chisholm or Ben Rice. Well, it's a lefty-righty thing, but that's going to get second-guessed if you lose. And he also pulled a pitcher, Max Fried, who was pretty good last night, and in the 7th inning, and everybody's going to freak out. Ahmed Rosario starts over Chisholm. Why? Because he hits the Red Sox ace better, Garrett Crochet. That's why he started him. So they pull, at about 100 pitches, they pull Max Fried. Everybody's kind of freaking out. But let's be honest. He was at his pitch limit. He'd labored in previous innings. He didn't have great command, and Aaron Boone knows more about that than you or I do. So they go to Luke Weaver. Well, Luke Weaver has been up and down all year out of the bullpen. That's the reality. And the Red Sox have played great baseball at Yankee Stadium this year. They've won 6 of 8. They won the season series. So Luke Weaver faltered. And this whole night came down to a couple high-leverage situations. One of them was Luke Weaver. He didn't get the job done, and that's the reality. The other was just historically weird. No team's ever loaded the bases, bottom of the 9th, and not scored a run, at least one. But Aroldis Chapman, he throws 100 miles an hour, strikes out Giancarlo Stanton, your $325 million hitter in a high-leverage spot. The Red Sox were better in a clutch spot in the 7th, and they got a historically rare success with Chapman in the 9th. And that's the game. And that every baseball fan, especially in New York, thinks they're a combination of Earl Weaver, Billy Martin, Connie Mack, and Casey Stengel. Baseball playoffs, especially in this series, come down to moments. And one of those moments is in the 7th inning. And you can say, well, Max Fried was really rolling. He had a 24-pitch inning. He had a 20-pitch inning. And again, the Red Sox are a really good team. So my take is Aaron Boone travels with a team. He knows his team. And his take was he didn't have great command, a lot of pitches in these innings. I want to get out of here. But this whole game came down to a seventh bullpen miss and a bottom of the ninth Chapman overpowered Yankee hitters. And that's playoff baseball. Here's Aaron Boone on his decision to pull Max Fried.
I felt like his command was, not as good. Those final few, he's just making so many big pitches and his stuff was good. So, look, he gave us, what we needed and felt really good about the outing he put forth. But I felt pretty convicted, especially we got the double play. It's like, let's go get one more hitter and be good.
And the other thing is so much of Major League Baseball managing these days is upstairs. A lot of it's just numbers. Fried was at a pitch count. I don't like that number. If you pitch 100 pitches now, that's as much as you're going to pitch. And so now the Dodgers are in a situation, we'll talk about them in a second. Their bullpen's so bad, they're going to blow through that. But the Yankees' bullpen's not that bad. It's not Dodger bad, okay? So the other thing is, a lot of times, it's like when football coaches on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 go for it. If you make it, you have courage. I like him. This guy's tough. He's a genius. And if it fails, guy's an idiot. How do you go for it on 4th and 2? So I don't like to do a lot of post-game. Baseball is 162 games long. You got 2 months in spring training. These managers tend to know their staffs better than I do. Certainly better than the average fan does or media member. So my take is it's like, okay, it's at 100 pitches, 24-pitch inning. Previously, he doesn't have great command. I'm going to make the move. And Luke Weaver, been spotty, faltered. That's the game. All right, let's go Dodgers. So the Dodgers are favored over the Cincinnati Reds. The Dodgers' payroll's 3 times that. It'd be more if you weren't pushing Ohtani's salary down the road. The reality is the Dodgers are going to win this series. But last night's a prime example of why they're not going to win the World Series. They had an 8-0 lead and won 10-5. So here's how it all started. First inning with Shohei Ohtani.
The 2-1 pitch. Ohtani turns on a ball, hit deep to right field. It is gone! Shohei Ohtani kicks off the postseason with a bang.
So Teoscar Hernandez also had a couple of home runs. They got an 8-0 lead, and they made Blake Snell a very good pitcher. He's had some shoulder issues through his career. They made him go to 7 innings, and the reason is Dave Roberts doesn't trust the bullpen. Dodger fans don't trust the bullpen. The Dodger bullpen doesn't trust the bullpen. So they're going to push their starters as long as they can go. And their bullpen last night was brutal. 3 pitchers. That's what it took, 59 pitches to get 3 outs against Cincinnati, and that's after they'd scored 3 runs. So it was a bad bullpen. But last night, what the Dodgers need is really good starting pitching, okay, and they need their big bats to deliver. Well, Mookie Betts had a couple hits. Freddie Freeman went 2 for 4. Ohtani had a couple of bombs. Teoscar Hernandez had a couple of bombs, so it worked last night. But in the 8th inning, that bullpen to the Reds, 59 pitches, 3 pitchers just to get 3 outs. So it was so Dodgers. I said this yesterday. I think they blew 26 saves. If they would have just blown half that, you would have had one of the great Dodger seasons. If they'd have blown just half that. So they scored 10 runs. They had 15 hits. It feels good, but this is how they're going to have to win. They're going to need Ohtani and Freeman and Max Muncy and Mookie Betts. They're going to have to hit. And again, baseball playoffs, it's the very best pitching. They're going to have to hit really high-end pitching in high-leverage situations because the bullpen's not going to work. It didn't work during the regular season. It's not working against the best teams. So, I thought that felt like a Dodger game. Your stars, your money players delivered. You got solid starting pitching, and the bullpen was awful. And that's the Dodgers. So J-Mac also watched on the train home Cubs and the Padres have a very specific way they have to play. And if they don't play that way, they can't win. So I think they're in trouble with the Cubs. But, we were both back there. when the baseball Yankee Red Sox, at the time, the Yankees spent the most money and the Red Sox spent the second most money, and they would bid. The Hot Stove League was different. And then the Dodgers got, new owners, and then the Dodgers now it's a bank. Right. And they push their salaries down the road. The Dodgers have the best team easily. And the complaint in New York is, well, we don't, because they do spend money, but it's like Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone, you don't make big moves. But it's funny about New York because the Knicks just fired a coach after their best season in 10 plus years. The Giants and the Jets are constantly making changes, and the Yankees are kind of strangely, for New York, strangely patient, and which is right? The frenetic pace of the Jets, Giants, and Knicks, or the Yankees' patience? Now, Yankee fans would say I'd rather be a little bit more like the other guys, but the Jets, Giants are a circus. Yeah. And the Knicks have mostly been a circus, and the Yankees win every year, but they're incredibly patient. And my takeaway on the Yankees is, would you rather they be the other New York teams who are making big swings and Nets, Knicks, Mets, Jets? Those teams are chaotic.